साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः वृत्तस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः वृत्तस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् तो प्रभो प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् संसारधामानललिलोक प्राणायकारिण घनाघनत्यम् सकलन गुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि दयं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्वी सन्धं दयं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्वी सन्धं वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् संसारदावानललिलोक प्राणायकारिण्य घनाघनत्यम् कल्याण गुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् 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 प्राणाय कारुण्य घनाघनतम् भक्तश कल्याण गुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and welcome to this Saturday morning. Time marches, doesn't it, Yashodanandana Prabhu? It just relentless time. And a lot of people don't see it passing because they're too preoccupied with their own personal ambitions or purposes. But the fact of the matter is, time and tide wait for no man. And what we do with our time is the most important thing. How we spend our days, weeks, months, and years, because time is marching. And it's most important that we utilize our time, which cannot be bought back for millions of dollars. No. Once it's gone, it never returns, at least in this sojourn, this journey of time that we're in now in this particular body. But the best use of our time, Vijaya Pandit, is to somehow or other get the attention of Krishna. Yes. Because that is the secret of success for the devotee, to attract Krishna. And Prabhupada, I was listening to a lecture the other day. He says that his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, said this: don't try to see Krishna. No. Interesting, eh? Don't try to see Krishna. But act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. Interesting. Now, think about it. Krishna is all pervasive throughout the entire creation. And God means and includes everything as described in the Nectar of Devotion, in the opening introduction. Now, how to comprehend that is very difficult because we're so insignificant. We're 1/10,000th, the tip of a hair. And you think you're important? That's Maya. You're in Maya. So how can the insignificant living entity, Michael, like myself and you, attract Krishna? How can you do it? It's a good question. And I was talking to our friend, we have some verse here. I was talking to our friend Rupa Goswami, who's working on our study guide with us, with our team. Prabhu Martinez as well, who's just created the Dhamma explanations, all the different holy lands. And we're compiling these books that we're going to distribute specifically to give people insight in how to follow Krishna consciousness without being deceived by the misrepresentations that have taken place in Prabhupada's movement, the ISKCON group. Complicated subject, isn't it? Yes. And I said to Rupa Goswami, I said, you know something, Prabhu? He told me, he says, I'm 100% into doing this. 100%. I told him, okay, well, good. Because by doing this, you're getting the attention of Krishna. And if you can attract Krishna to your devotional service, then you're a success in life. And what is the service? That he is working together with us to protect Michael, Prabhupada's legacy. Think about it. It sounds Italian, doesn't it? Just think about it. But the fact of the matter is, this simple direction that one takes in their life, Vijaya Pandit, to try to protect the legacy of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada through your service attracts the attention of Krishna. Now someone could say, well, how's that possible? Because what is more important in this entire world than that? Can you think of a greater service? No, there isn't one. I don't care what you do in your world. It has no value unless you attract Krishna to your life. I'm reading the Krishna book, Mother Rochisha. What a fascinating piece of work by Srila Prabhupada. You know, because he's going ahead with the 10th canto in case he would have left his body prematurely, let's say for us, he would still have the chance to present the 10th canto to us, which is very important to be able to get to the 10th canto, because that describes the highest stages of Krishna consciousness to the devotee. Oh yeah. Like later I'm going to read about the rasa dance. I'm a little bit paranoid about that because I'm not very qualified to get that information. But Prabhupada wanted to give us this information, Madhurya Rasa. He wanted to give us all the information he possibly could while he was personally with us. So I'm reading about Kamsa. Oh my God, that guy was a complete demon. Terrible. The things that he was doing to kill all these babies of his sister-in-law, Devaki, was terrible. And Prabhupada explains in the purports in the book how there are two classes of men. They're demons and they're devotees. Well, that's kind of simplistic, wouldn't you say? There's just two classes of men. Well, that's the fact. Think about it. Here we go again. Just think about it. You've got these people in the government positions. I'm seeing all of these so-called politicians who are working for the benefit of others, so-called. Of course, they leave out the animals. They leave them out. They kill the animals. There was one person who is now in a prominent position. He was selling steaks, selling the mother, the cow, selling steaks, and yet he's claiming to be a pious person. No. There are two classes of men, demons and devotees. Remember that, Michael. Just two. In the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a whole explanation of the differences between the demon and the devotee. I'm going to carry on for a few more minutes. Think about it. These so-called gurus that have created a misinformation campaign to attract followers to themselves and build bank accounts and build ashrams. Sure, you build an ashram, you claim it's going to be for other people, but guess what? You've got a 5-star residence in that particular ashram, which you don't have to pay for. There's no rent. All of us, we have to pay a mortgage or we have to pay a rent. We have all kinds of bills we have to meet. But do they? No. Why? Because they're in the guru business. That's why. And the guru business can be very productive. Yeah, you can accumulate. There's a story about somebody from Chicago, and I have people that tell me this. He lends millions of dollars to other devotees for projects, and he's a sannyasi with a private bank account in the money business. Well, someone could say, well, why would you bring that up? Because we don't want people to be misled by these demons. That's the fact. There are two classes of men, devotee and demon. If someone usurps the position of the bona fide spiritual master for personal gain, self-aggrandizement, profit, adoration, and distinction, is he a devotee or a demon, Mother Rochisha? That's it. Well, someone could say, well, that's pretty black and white. That's right. There are two classes of men, the devotee and the demon. So we have a great job as devotees to attract Krishna to us by serving the mission that we've created for all of us to protect Prabhupada's legacy without compromise, because people compromise. Why? Well, they compromise to get people attracted to them, because think about it. When you say that you're a Diksha Guru, that means that you're as good as God. That's what it means. Like Prabhupada, for example, when he speaks as an acharya, a bona fide representative of Krishna, everything he says is Shastra. Everything. Not just, he's just talking. No. And that's why it's so captivating for all of us, Michael, to listen to Prabhupada's lectures, because there's a depth of information which is beyond time and space. It's beyond the ordinary mind of a petty individual who thinks he can become guru by association with Prabhupada without proper surrender and service, not to usurp his position, which is what's gone down. And this is a tragedy. We're going to go forward. I apologize for getting so much into this. It's a deep issue for us, very deep. And all of the experience that we have from being in this movement for over 55 years, myself and my godbrothers, it's scarred us in a certain way. We're not really scarred, but it's disturbing. Let's go to the diaries of Srila Prabhupada. Let's see, we're at 1019. Excerpt from an interview with Newsday newspaper in New York on July 14th, 1976. So Prabhupada, this is again at the Rath Yatra festival, and they've arranged this interview to get more publicity to people through the media. Prabhupada, give him the chair. They give. Now it's interesting to note I'm just going to read through it, but you've got to watch how these disciples of Srila Prabhupada think that Prabhupada doesn't know what he's doing, or that he doesn't speak properly, or whatever. And they try to interject into the conversation to be his mouthpiece. I find it very offensive. Very, very offensive. Please give him the chair. These gentlemen are reporters and a photographer from a very large newspaper in Long Island called Newsday. This is McKevin Lahart. So Prabhupada, he jumps forward. Oh, so they require a chair? He's asking, now here Romaswar, he's asking if you'd like a chair. Interviewer, no, this is all right. Romeshwar, this is Mr. Bill Sem. He's a photographer from their newspaper. Thank you, Prabhupada says. Sit down. You have seen our books? Interviewer, yes, I have. You translated all of those? I wonder if you could tell me how you came to founding the movement here in the United States. Prabhupada, I was ordered by my spiritual master to do this work. So on his order, I came in 1965. That is the beginning of this. I came alone with no help, no money. Somehow or other, I started. I always say that. In order to do something, you have to start. Otherwise, how can you finish? Interviewer, how did you attract people? You landed in New York? Prabhupada. My attraction is this chanting. That's all. Interviewer, did you stand on street corners and chant? Yes, I had no magic, Prabhupada said. Just like others, they say some show some magic. I never showed any magic. No, I understand that, the interviewer says. And Bali Mardan says, Tompkins Park. Prabhupada, by Tompkins Park, I was chanting, and these boys gradually came. First picture was published by the New York Times. Then we started branches in San Francisco, Montreal, Boston, and then Los Angeles in this way. Interviewers, so you just chanted in Tompkins Park and people came. Prabhupada, yes. I was underneath a tree. I think that picture was published by The Voice, a very big article published. Interviewer. What did you have to offer them? If you were chanting in the park and I said, what are you doing? Why are you chanting? What's your thing here? Prabhupada. Oh, here. Bali Mardan, he said, what did you have to offer? Here he's trying to translate for Prabhupada. You know, he blooped because he got caught with his wife cooking chicken in the kitchen. Just so you know. Romeshwar, he said if someone had come up to you while you were there chanting and said, what are you doing this? Why are you offering? How would you have replied? Let's not mention what Romeshwar did. They came, naturally they came and joined me and began to dance. That's all. This is the beginning. Romeshwar, but if they asked you, what is this all about? Prabhupada, no, this is for spiritual realization. If you chant, then gradually you realize yourself that you are a spiritual being. You are not the body. Then his spiritual life begins. Actually, human life is meant for spiritual realization. And if one does not spiritually realize his identity, then he remains an animal. That is the difference between animal and man. man is supposed to be spiritually realized. We're going to end this particular section, but I wanted to ask you, is this bridge preaching? Is this the example that Prabhupada set that we should all follow? Yes, it is. And Prabhupada was asked that question in another conversation. He said, you have created these miracles. Everyone says you are a miracle worker. And Prabhupada said, I do not know miracles. All I know is that I'm representing my guru without any change. And that is his success, not to change anything. Nothing. Not his books, not his kirtans, not his methods for offering prasadam. Nothing. Just repeat what you've heard, and that is your miracle. Haribol. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And thank you, Michael. I see you're feeling some bliss. That makes me happy too. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava. And then we'll have our reading and discussion from Twain Harte, California. Yashodanandana Prabhu's there. And enjoy the conversation of Krishna Katha with all of the Prabhupada Disciples Association members and the Hare Krishna Society. Hare Krishna.
Singh. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Nandana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Nandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Acharya Chaitanya Sadasyaman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavindra ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Ito Bhaktavindra ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Ito Bhaktavindra ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supremmost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. As we do every week, we will be reading a few selected Sanskrit verses which were introduced by Srila Prabhupada himself in 1966 when he began his lecturing program in New York City at the ISKCON Temple. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Makhyam Dadati Svapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunathan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like these are trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This class is being conducted on the basis of the original 1972 non-edited, non-interpolated, non-adulterated version of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the Macmillan edition. We will proceed with our verse for this week. This week we will be reading from chapter 13, from text 8 to 12. Given the length of this purport, we will read part of the purport this time and part next time. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantirarajavam acharyopasanam shaucham steryamatma vinigraha indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankarameva janma mrityu jaravyadi dukkadosha nudarshanam asaktirana bhisvangaha putradara grihadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtoppapattishu mayi chananya yogena bhaktirabhyabicharini vivikta deshasevitvam aratirjana samsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etajnanamiti proktam ajnanam yadatonyata. Amanitvam, humility. Adambitvam, pridelessness. Ahimsa, nonviolence. Kshanti, tolerance. Arjavam, simplicity. Acharya upasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Saucham, cleanliness. steryam, steadfastness, atma vinigraha, control, indriya arteshu, in the matter of the senses, vairagyam, renunciation, anahankaraha, being without false egoism, eva, certainly, cha, also, janma, birth, mrityu, death, jara, old age, vyadi, disease, dukkha, distress, dosha, fault, anudarshanam, observing, asaktihi, without attachment, anabhishvangaha, without association, putra, son, dhara, wife, griya adishu, home, etc., nityam, eternal, cha, also, samachittatvam, equilibrium, ishta, desirable, anishtaha, undesirable, upapattishu, having obtained, mayi, unto me, cha, also, ananya yogena, by devotional service, bhakti, devotion, avivicharini, constant, unalloyed, vivikta, solitary, desha, place, sivitvam, aspiring, aratihi, without attachment, jana, people in general, samsadi, mass, adhyatma, pertaining to the self, jnana, knowledge, nityatvam, eternity, tattvajnana, knowledge of the truth, artha, the object, darshanam, philosophy, etat, all this, jnanam, knowledge, iti, thus, proktam, declared, ajnanam, ignorance, yat, that which, ataha, from this, anyata, others. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, and self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity, but actually this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the tenfold elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 10th verse. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 7th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles, and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Nonviolence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, nonviolence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is nonviolence. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlada, who only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlada tolerated him. So for making advancement in spiritual knowledge, there may be many impediments, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmiritam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadate Visheshataham Adadanastrinam Danteridam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhurishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata tat kripa pikshako nityam, tat prishta karomi svam, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very important sequence of verses, and Srila Prabhupada used to often quotes many verses in this exchange here. When we look at this text number 8, it is explained, Acharyo pasanam socham steryamatma vinigrahaha. Acharyo pasanam is accepting the position of the bona fide authorized acharya. This is explained in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, accepting the bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada says, as for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot make progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because the bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulated principles. Or the regulated principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Now, what does this mean? This means, first of all, to follow the instructions. And another point that is very important is not to manufacture different interpretations contrary to the instructions of the spiritual master. What do we mean by that? What does it practically mean? This means no mental speculation. When I first joined the temple in Montreal in 1969, there was a devotee named Ishan Das. Ishan was a very accomplished musician. When we would go in Sankirtan, he would play the trumpet. And Bharadwaj, also a very good musician, Sripati, an excellent mridanga player. So they would have this amazing kirtan, and people would gather. We would play on St. Catherine Street in Montreal, a prominent street. And what happens, many people were fascinated with this Sankirtan. So one time, Ishan at the back of the temple gave the instruction, following the regular principles, when it says no gambling, that includes no mental speculation. Now, we all know what gamblings and game of chance mean. That is not difficult to understand. But no mental speculation is very important. That means one cannot manufacture or invents interpretations which are not intended. In other words, Srila Prabhupada has given all the instructions. Everything is clear. Everything has been given in his books, in his writings, by his practical personal example. So a devotee who is serious about making spiritual advancement should follow without unnecessary interpretation. Let me explain. In the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada explains that in the conversation, when Lord Chaitanya was conversing with Prakashananda Saraswati, there are two ways of understanding Vedic knowledge. One is called Mukhya Vritti, which is the direct meaning, and one is called the Lakshana Vritti, the indirect meaning. And Prabhupada would often explain, when things are very clear, there is no need of interpretation. When it is not so clear, then there can be some interpretation. The difficulty we have is some people claim, well, I was there and I really know what Prabhupada really intended, what he really meant, what he was really saying, and you regular rank and file devotees don't know so much. Well, it's a pious belief, but the reality is very different. How many times have we heard Srila Prabhupada say, if you have any questions, read my books and all your questions will be answered. Interestingly, the same devotee, Ishan Prabhu, was sent a very nice letter by Srila Prabhupada in 1970, where Prabhupada described, why is it that some people don't seem to quite understand the real meaning of Krishna consciousness? And Prabhupada said, as soon as there is personal motivation, it is not possible to understand our Krishna consciousness philosophy, unquote. Now, you don't have to be a PhD in English grammar to understand this. It is simple. It is direct. It is not complicated. If you don't have personal motivation for name and fame and power and profit, adoration, distinction, and so many other personal agendas, then Krishna consciousness can be very simple. We have heard Srila Prabhupada say, Krishna consciousness is very easy to understand for the simple, but very difficult for the crooked. If somebody approaches this philosophy with personal motivation, with personal intention, it's very difficult to understand the philosophy. The very nature of this philosophy means don't be personally motivated. That's why we are in this material world. Look at what Prabhupada said in the first line of this purport. Second line there. One should not be hankering after this material deception. What is that? Prabhupada says, the material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. What does Lord Chaitanya say? Nadhanam na janam na sundarim kabitam vajagadisha kamaye. That I don't after a beautiful woman, or these days, after beautiful boys or underage girls, or after name and fame or power or a great poet. This is not what he wants. What does he want? Babatat bhakti rahetukitvayi. Causeless devotional service, birth after birth. If you ever have the Song of the Vaishnavacharyas, I respectfully suggest and very humbly suggest that you go study that bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called Gopinatha. This is an amazing expression of devotional humility and sentiment, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining what is the real meaning of being a devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is presenting himself just like an ordinary man, but yet he's the highest devotee. Gaura Shakti Swarupena, according to our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is considered a empowered incarnation, Gaura Shakti, of the manifestation of the mercy, the Shakti of Lord Chaitanya, to revive the Krishna consciousness movement. Very powerful personality. And how does he express himself? Very simply, very humbly presenting himself as an insignificant person. He's the most exalted, yet he describes himself as insignificant. Same thing in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Das Kaviraj, the celebrated author of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, presents himself as lower than the worm in the stool. That if one hears his name, he incurs sinful activities. If one recites his name, he says he loses all of his pious activities. But yet this devotee is considered one of the highest devotees in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, on the level of the Sikh Goswamis. Yet he expresses himself like the worm in the stool. Lord Chaitanya, Trinadapi Sunachena. But yet we have a class of devotees, or pseudo-devotees, who think themselves so important that they can dare to publicly insult the topmost Mahabhagavata in our Sampradaya. Topmost, just leave it there, Prabhu. Nilesh, we'll read that in a second. They will dare to claim that Prabhupada was an employee of their corporation. Just see their foolishness, their bewilderment. They're so much after money, power, and control that they cannot see or understand the first point about spiritual life. You have that, Neil Shyama Prabhu, you were just quoting on the screen. I wanted to read that. Thank you very much, Prabhu. This is from a lecture on Bhagavad Gita where Prabhupada explained, this is in Hawaii on January 30th, 1975. Could go further down. Dambo Darpa, okay, go up, up, up. All right, leave it there. Dambo Darpo Bhimanascha Kuroda Parishamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sampadamasurim. We have discussed last night some of the divine characteristics and Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi. Like that, 16 divine characteristics. And here, the demonic characteristics, we can understand a thing by analysis of characteristics. In the chemical laboratory, things are tested by characteristics. Just like this chemical, color is like this, shape is like this, then taste is like this, then chemical reaction is like this. They are slated for each and every chemical. And we can understand the purity by the characteristic. The characteristic is also called dharma, just like a snake. The snake characteristic is that unnecessarily, without any offense, it bites. And the animal which is bitten, it dies. He dies. That this is the characteristic. Without any fault, the snake is going and the other animal is going. Go, but the characteristic of snake is unnecessarily bite. This is the characteristic. In this way, Srila Prabhupada explains the characteristics of demonic person. And Prabhupada explains later on, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. What is this damba? Why I should be pride? What is this pride? So that is ignorance due to ignorance. When one man is unnecessarily proud, that means it is due to ignorance. In Chaitanya Charitamrita author, he describes himself that I am lower than the worms in the stool. Purisher kitoete muise lagishta, jagai madayoete muise papishta. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 5205. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your brilliant explanation of today's verse and purport. And I wanted to tell you about a story I had, Prabhu, of a devotee I met who told me he was reading this particular verse and he was studying it carefully to try to develop the qualities that are outlined in it. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, etc. And I pointed out to him this very important part of the purport, because it's important to be guided by an authority in this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And that is, of course, Srila Prabhupada in his purports. Because if you read the verses, you may misinterpret them by your own ignorance. You don't know what Krishna is saying. But when you hear from Prabhupada, he gives the proper understanding. So my friend, he was trying to tell me, well, I'm going to concentrate on developing all of these qualities. I'm going to have truthfulness, and I'm going to be simplicity and this and that. But in this purport, here is the answer, and I tried to point this out to him. Did he listen? Of course not. He didn't listen, because people generally do not listen. Prabhupada says, Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 10th verse. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach, then the transcendental service of the Lord, then all the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. So here's the answer. You don't have to go through each of the individual qualities and say, I'm going to become humble. I'm going to become simplistic. I'm going to do this or that. No, you have to simply take up the process of devotional service to the spiritual master. And through bhakti yoga, these qualities will develop. Very interesting point to understand. For example, Prabhupada also explains the value of chanting your rounds. Some people may minimize that. They say, well, I can't do it. I've got to do something else. Well, this is the foundation of your spiritual life. If you take up the process of chanting every day without fail, that should be your first, let's say, responsibility as a bhakti yogi, is to chant your rounds. I know when I get up in the morning, I'm always thinking, okay, well, I got to chant my rounds. That's the first thing I got to do. And you work at that. You know, I've got my rounds done already. I've got my rounds. Of course, it's 10 o'clock, so, or 11 now, but I did finish those preliminary requirements as a devotee for myself. It's up to each individual to decide what they're going to do. But the first thing is you have to apply yourself to this process. And in this way, all the good qualities of a devotee will develop. If you're not changing, it's because you're not chanting. A lot of people don't chant. I know in a particular case, I'm not mentioning a name, but there's one particular guru who has 75,000 disciples. 75,000. And he doesn't chant his rounds. Of course, now he physically can't. But even back when he used to come to Toronto on a regular basis, he came every 3 months to Toronto. I don't know why. He wasn't a GBC, he wasn't this or that, but he would show up. He would just show up. And he would come to the temple, he would stay there. He never got up in the morning for the morning program. He never attended anyone else's classes. And he never chanted his rounds. And that's evidenced by a lot of people, not by me. I've seen it with many godbrothers of mine who claim to be guru. They don't chant their rounds. I know it. I'm not trying to fault find, it's a fact. So this process of devotional service, the development of your character. What is your character? What is it? Well, it's going to be reflected by your discipline. Disciple means discipline. And if people apply themselves to this process of Krishna consciousness properly, without any change, then the good qualities of Krishna consciousness, devotees, will manifest within you. That's a simple thing. Now, Prabhupada also mentioned in this purport, and I wanted to highlight it, that nonviolence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually nonviolence means not to put others into distress. Now, I wanted to highlight this point because Prabhupada says that also includes the animals. Now, someone would say, well, animals don't have souls. That's not right. That's not true. All living beings have soul. That's where the life force comes. And the greatest sin that's being committed by people in the North American continent is their constant addiction to eating dead animals and slaughtering them without any mercy. You know what's going to happen to these people? They're all going to go to hell. No, someone would say, well, that sounds like some kind of Christian preacher. Well, why are they going to hell? What does that mean to go to hell? That means karma, action and reaction. You want to kill animals and eat them without any remorse, without any conscience, without any concern. There's a karma for that. They used to have up on the McDonald's signs the number of burgers that were sold. Remember Yashoda back in the day? They used to say, 1 million sold. Then it became 100 million sold. Then it became 1 billion sold. And now Dharma Bhavana, they don't put a number up because it's trillions. That's why. This particular lifestyle, this Kali Yuga demoniac society we live in, is going to hell. And Prabhupada told us, I remember this, he said, if you want to stop the wars, you have to shut down the slaughterhouses in Chicago. Remember that famous lecture? That's what he said. Because there's a tremendous karma that is there when you, without any hesitation, kill innocent domestic animals, pigs, cows, goats. All these species have a right to live, and this violence that goes on against them is the damnation of people in this modern world. Yes, it is. And so if people want to overcome these bad habits, they have to take to the process of Krishna consciousness, like I was saying here earlier. When you do that, then all the qualities of goodness start to manifest within the heart. But if you don't, then you'll be taken up by the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. And guess what? You'll take birth in a lower species of life, guaranteed. Oh, well, that sounds like kind of fire and what is it, brimstone? That sounds kind of radical. Well, if you don't accept the laws of karma, if you don't understand that you're not the body, if you don't understand you're the servant of Krishna, if you don't take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, Prabhupada said, you're nothing but an animal. And you'll act like an animal, and you'll suffer like an animal when you die. One last point. As a devotee, you may be persecuted, Nila Shama. You could be persecuted. I know. I just wanted to say this, just so everybody knows this. I've been threatened by death by three times when I was in the Krishna movement. Yes. I've never been threatened when I lived in the karmi world, but when I was in the devotional world, I was threatened. They put guns in our buildings. They did propaganda to try to have us arrested, put in jail. That was my God brothers. Think about it. But if you come out in this society, they don't do anything to you. But go join the Krishna movement and see how it works out. Because if you're preaching, you may be persecuted. Just like nowadays. So many, I said to Yashoda, well, if I went to Vrindavan for this anniversary, I don't think they'd like to see me. No. In fact, I could be in danger. So am I going? No, thank you. Prabhupada said, when you're in danger, just leave. Don't stay. Just go somewhere else and preach. Because look what happened to Jesus Christ, Nilesh Sharma. What happened to him when he started to preach? They crucified him. They killed him because they misunderstood what he was doing. Look at the case of Prahlad Maharaj. His father wanted to kill him because he was a devotee of Krishna. So don't think that you won't be harassed by the conditioned souls who are karmically entangled in sinful activity when you tell them, don't eat meat. I tell people right to their face, I have a rule. If I catch somebody bring meat in my house here, I kick them out right away. Get out and don't come back. There's a rule. So the rule of society is always practice Krishna consciousness and respect all life. That is our business. Yashodanandana Prabhu, we're going to move forward with the reading from the unauthorized biography created by one of our godbrothers called the Leelamrita. And if anybody follows these people, it's not good. Give it up right away. Do not compromise. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for your comments. We are reading from the Leelamrita Review, book number 2, page number 4. Book number 2, page number 4. Thank you, Rupa Goswami Prabhu. We're reading from the bottom. It says, was Srila Prabhupada shocked? The Leelamrita speculates that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was shocked, shaken, and greatly affected by the hellish condition of this world, especially in the cities. Leelamrita, book 2, page 95. Although Prabhupada's home had suddenly become an insane terror, the street at its door was also a hellish, dangerous place. He was shaken. Leelamrita, book 2, page 37. America seemed so opulent, yet many things were difficult to tolerate for Srila Prabhupada. The sirens and bells from fire engines and police cars seemed like they would crack his heart. Leelamrita, book 2, page 95. Prabhupada moved quickly down the 4th flight of stairs. He had not stopped to gather up any of his belongings or even to decide where he would go or whether he would return. There had been no time to consider anything. He had taken quite a shock, and now he was leaving the arena of David's madness. Webster's dictionary defines shock as a violent shake or jar, a sudden or violent disturbance in the mental or emotional faculties. Webster Dictionary defines shaken as to tremble as a result of physical or emotional disturbance to experience a state of inability. The position of the fully realized pure devotee is never shaken. Shastra, to the contrary, states that heaven or hell are the same for the pure devotee, because he's transcendental to both. He's never shaken, even amidst the greatest difficulty. From Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 20 through 23. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established such, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks that there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. Then we have, further down, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, Text 71. When a man is suddenly shocked by some great loss, he forgets his identification with the gross body. Because of ignorance of the spiritual body, of which we have no experience, we do not know the activities of the spiritual body. And in ignorance, we jump from one false platform to another. We act sometimes in relation to the gross body and sometimes in relation to the subtle body. If by Krishna's grace we act in our spiritual body, we can transcend both the gross and subtle bodies. In other words, we can gradually train ourselves to act in terms of the spiritual body. Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee is always situated in Vrindavana. The Lilamrita offers that his divine grace was affected by the hellishness of America to such a degree that he wanted to get away and return to Vrindavan as an escape. Prabhupada, yes, I'm not happy here. Women, yes, I know. Prabhupada, I shall be happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place, from Lilamrita, book number 2, page 59. But Shastra tells us differently, that the pure devotee is always in Vrindavan or Vaikuntha. He is always experiencing Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, and he creates that atmosphere even for others, wherever he goes. A devotee engaged in the service of Narayana is always in equilibrium. A devotee actually lives transcendentally. Although he may appear to have gone to heaven or hell, he does not live in either place. Rather, he always lives in Vaikuntha. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 21, Text 32. Thank you very much. Back to you, Vishwakarma, in the studio.
Well, that's right. The pure devotee is not part of this material world. He is a transcendental warrior descended from the spiritual plane to deliver the conditioned souls in the Kali Yuga out of this repeated cycle of birth and death. So it's a very important position, and it shouldn't be minimized. I'm going to ask Dharma Bhavana, our Prabhu in Dallas, maybe he could share a few comments on today's program. Turn his microphone on, please. Thank you. Still not working.
Okay, now I think it's working. Is it okay now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we were reading earlier from the beginning of the class how Prabhupada was asked, how did he attract the people? How did he get started in America?
Yeah.
He came with no money, almost nothing. And Prabhupada said, oh, I just started chanting the holy names. I guess at Tompkins Square Park, or maybe when he opened up class 26 Second Avenue, there was a long kirtan in the morning and evening. So someone may ask, well, why are we studying scripture so much? And I was going to read from thank you, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 353. And in his verse, I don't think I can bring it up. It's okay. It's described here like locally, you have people trying to chant the holy names, but without deep Shastric knowledge, it just becomes a disturbance in society. They come and complain to me, oh, we're failing. And I said, well, if you do all the things exactly opposite of what I tell you, it's probably going to be failure. So here in this verse, I'll start reading. It's Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 353. The Vedic literature is composed by the omniscient Mahamuni Vyasadeva are evidence of all spiritual existence. Only through these revealed scriptures can all conditioned souls attain knowledge. Purport. Foolish people try to concoct knowledge by manufacturing something in their brains. This is not the real way of knowledge. Knowledge is Shabda Praman, evidence from the Vedic literature. Srila Vyasadeva is called Mahamuni. He is also known as Veda Vyas because he has compiled so many Shastras. He has divided the Vedas into 4 divisions: Sama, Rik, Yajur, and Atharva. He has expanded the Vedas into 18 Puranas in a summarized Vedic knowledge in the Vedanta Sutra. He also compiled the Mahabharata, which is accepted as the 5th Veda. Bhagavad Gita is contained within the Mahabharata. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is also Vedic literature, Smriti. Some of the Vedic literatures are called Shrutis and some are called Smritis. Sri Rupa Goswami recommends in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidyambina Aikantiki Harir Bhaktir Utpatayaiva Kalpade. Unless one refers to Shastra, Shruti, Smriti, or Puranadi, one's spiritual activity simply disturbs society. So I just wanted to read that part of the purport. It seems to be a real important evidence how important it is to study scriptures. And that's mostly what we do here. Thank you, Haribo.
Thank you. Excellent. We're going to move forward with, we've had a lot of activity on our chat, as you know, for those that go to it during the program, and people make comments, which we appreciate. And I thought there was an interesting comment made by Neil Shama Das, and it is something that Jesus said, and I'm going to have him comment on it in a second. But the point is this. He's saying, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, this is a discussion before the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's how Krishna dealt with the demons. How did he deal with them? It was a war, and they were all killed. How do you put that in context, your statement here that Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, Nila Shama? Is his microphone on? Neela? Is he there? His hand's up. The comment's there. But his face is not there. Okay. Yashodanandana, maybe you could comment on that. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Well, that's the compassion of a pure devotee. Pure devotee are amazingly tolerant. And one of their ways of giving instruction is basically to tolerate the offenses of others, tolerate the insults of others. Srila Prabhupada did that in many ways. It also shows their compassion upon those who are offenders or blasphemers. The one thing we do see, though, although they were very tolerant for themselves, they do not tolerate distortions of bona fide spiritual philosophy, just like Prabhupada did not tolerate distortion. It's one thing for innocent offenses or somebody's misdeeds or personal problems. But Srila Prabhupada did not like it when his devotees tried to distort the philosophy. Just like there was an example of a letter that was in the Prabhupada letter book of a devotee who asked a question of Prabhupada whether Lord Jagannath had a flute or something. And Prabhupada said, the greatest danger to our movement is when we concoct and invent new ways of worshiping the deities. I'm paraphrasing here. And therefore, Prabhupada, although he was very tolerant and most merciful and very kindly forgave the innocent offenses of devotees, when it came to misrepresenting the philosophy, he did not like that. He did not tolerate that. Same thing in the Bible. There are so many instructions that are given by Jesus to various personalities or various people trying to correct their misguided or misunderstandings of proper spiritual behavior. So that's my comment with that. I don't know if Neil Shama is back or if you wanted him to put an additional
He's not
comment.
there. That's okay.
Okay.
But Ron Singh in Oroville, California. Maybe you could comment on this point about what happened in the Mahabharata, what happened with the people that offended the devotees as compared to Jesus's teachings. By the way, these teachings of Lord Jesus are mostly the first level of spiritual education for the devotee. Just like we have, Prabhupada said, the Bhagavad Gita is an introduction. Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita are the different stages of education spiritually. So the Bible is an elementary explanation of morality. Just know that. Is there any mention of Vaikuntha? Is there any mention of Goloka Vrindavan? Is there any mention of the Purusha avatars in the Bible? Nothing. Maybe you can study the Bible if you want, but you're going to be at the first level. It's not a bad thing, but it's the first level of spiritual knowledge. It's not the most advanced. No way. So Ron Singh, please, if you could comment.
There's a funny quote, Prabhupada says, devil quoting scripture. So we see this a lot of times. People, at least in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was setting the whole thing up, and it went according to his direction. So we're very fortunate to see how Srila Prabhupada is explaining everything very nicely. So it's pretty clear that we take the Vaishnava perspective, which is Srila Prabhupada's perspective, that there's no, when there's time to fight, there's time to fight. Prabhupada says himself, either it's philosophical or physical. Devotees are not afraid to fight for what is right. And there's many instances where Srila Prabhupada had given orders for devotees to be protected. So that's my little comment on that. You can see if you read Prabhupada's letters or Prabhupada's conversations, he many times instructs to protect devotees and defend devotees. So that's my side of the understanding.
Okay. Well, thank you. we're going to wind up the program, but I wanted to mention that we're moving ahead with the printing of books, and we're also creating books to give people a deeper understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness according to Prabhupada's teachings, not changed. So in order to do that, we do need people to help us. So if any of you know people that are interested in participating in this service, please have them reach me. We've got all kinds of digital platforms that we want to penetrate in our production and distribution of books. Because a lot of times, Rupa Goswami mentioned this to me yesterday because we were talking about this. He said, yeah, most people, they don't actually buy books nowadays. They take books. Like, it's great to have a book. Like, you know, I personally, I'm old school, of course. I personally like the books, but a lot of people, they receive the information digitally. That's how it's transmitted these days. So if you have people that can help us with our digital platforms, if you have people that can help us on any level to disseminate this information to other people, have them get in touch with me. We really appreciate it. It's always great when other people take up the service. Like we have Ryan Martinez. He's submitting the Dhammas. He submitted it yesterday to us. And we're going to be putting it in our guide to self-realization, which is becoming a multi-volume set of books to give people a proper introduction into Krishna consciousness based on Prabhupada's teachings without any change. Very valuable. So if there's anything that you think you might like to do, please get in touch with me and we'll see if we can find a service for you. Trying to have you have the opportunity to get the attention of Krishna. Do not try to act in such a way that you want to see Krishna, but act in such a way that Krishna, Michael, will want to see you. That is the secret of success. And protecting Prabhupada's legacy and protecting this process of devotional service without any change is the greatest service that all of us can do together to please Prabhupada and get the attention of Krishna. Act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. Thank you, everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for Srimad Bhagavatam reading and discussion at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Canada and around the world, whatever your time zone is and your time frame. And we're going to move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna, led by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Please stay on for it. It's 2 minutes and 54 seconds, and it'll be the best use of time that you can make here today in April, what is it, April 11th today? Yeah? Time flies. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everyone for participating in this lively reading and discussion. Thanks Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, Vijay Pandit in Italy, Oroville, Italy, Rochisa Mataji in Canada, Quebec City, Neil Sharma in Florida, and Rupa Goswami Prabhu in Mumbai, Ram Raghava Prabhu. We can't see his picture, but we know he's there in Brighton, Georgia, USA. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. And Joe Felici in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and the one only Krishna Kata in Alpine, Southern California. Thanks everybody for participating. And Ron Singh, Dr. Ron Singh in Oroville, California, with a wonderful Prabhupada deity. Every day he goes to close to that river over there, purifying the river with mantras and chanting of Hare Krishna. Thanks everybody for participating. We hope to see you tomorrow morning for Srimad Bhagavatam reading at 7:00 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, corresponding to 10 a.m. Eastern USA and Eastern Canada. Thank you very much. Let us spend 2 minutes or whatever the time is to hear from these Jamaican devotees with some very unique chanting of the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama